Good evening, everyone. This is Gaines here, and we're going to give ourselves a try at recording some videos. So hopefully this is going to be a nice setup here for the next upcoming week. And I thought we might start with Nasdaq. So just to give us a bit of an idea about what we might see here coming up in the next couple days is starting to see some sort of triangles developing here, which are typically continuation patterns. If we look at the overall structure of the larger triangle, it's starting to develop into a little bit more of sort of like an ending diagonal, where we might be able to see some sort of pattern expansion to the upside. Um, for example, we might see some more, um, just drawing drawing out the lines a little bit more, giving it a little bit more time for the pattern to develop. We might see ourselves like an ABC up here, and we might see some higher levels. Typically, uh, looks a little bit more like a flag, or like a pennant, I guess you could say, and that would develop into sort of like a just like a B wave. But ultimately, here what we're looking for is a longer term end to this sort of. I'm not sure if it's a wave five or wave three in the larger term. If we look at it at the hourly level here, we can see that we've definitely had a lot of this massive rally from this flag here, and there's really been no decent pullback. Um, it still looks like we're in a wave five here when we zoom in, but I'm still not sure if this is just the end of a larger wave three, or if this is actually the wave five of a where we might see a much larger pullback here. But for right now, I think we're still safe here with with maybe some quick long scalpers. But it's starting to look like we could definitely see this five-wave structure develop. And if I take off some of the drawings, you can see that it's got its little bit of a bend here for like a sharp wave two, and we might see ourselves a like a wave four. If we see a sharp wave two, we'll probably see a lazy sort of wave four developing, and that's why I'm thinking that we might see like an ending diagonal here, which is like a combination of wave four and wave five. So with that being said, still have some upper bounds for targets. Yeah, I think Nasdaq's going to struggle to get above this like 1693, sorry, this 16963 area. And why I think that is because yes, even though we do have some sort of flag slash pennant thing developing here, we still see a ton of top wicks here. And we did see some aggressive selling. And if we look at the volume here at the hourly level, we can definitely see that there's some interest in either taking profits or starting to develop as a top. And more serious traders are familiar with wave counts and things. So you might see a lot more of these top wicks the higher that we climb, and a little bit more aggressive selling. So with that being said, that's kind of what I think we might see here for Nasdaq. Um, we did see just a really quick break of this triangle pattern here. If you look at the 5 minute, this to me is still a little bullish. It's not crazy, like want to go nuts with longs, but we can still see here that there really hasn't been any significant selling. And if we zoom in for the volume, even at the 1 minute level here, this is where I typically like to see in the after hour sessions where we have these big tests at the top. Now we haven't really seen any big volume yet. This is still not anything crazy, but overall we should still find some sort of top here, and then have some sort of reversal here for a larger um, just for a larger pullback. We might see something in the area of maybe like 16,775. Um, but what we really want to look for here is we want to look for any sort of breakout of this level of the 16,888 level, because what this is going to do is really expand that pattern. So before when we first started here, we see that we had this barrier triangle, and I would say 9 times out of 10 these barrier triangles always break out to the upside. Um, so that's why we're at least speculating here that this pattern would expand. But I really want to see what happens here at the opening. Uh, my guess is we'll see uh, some sort of buying tomorrow morning to try to break us out of this pattern. Maybe some sort of right as the right at the opening bell here, we might see some attempt at another squeeze up higher. But in my opinion here, the uh, the squeeze that we saw at the end of the day on Friday, I would consider that sort of like a failed squeeze. I mean, it was sold down right away. Same thing with these guys like to juice the market on Sunday nights, especially if they try to squeeze on Friday, and it wasn't very successful. But we're also seeing some resistance here. So right at this level, the 16,840, 845 level, this is where I'd expect to see some sort of reversals. But again, time will tell. But for now, I think that we will see some sort of pullback eventually here. Maybe we'll see it in the next couple hours. But the setup for tomorrow should be more consolidation, and then ultimately, at least I'm leaning bullish for tomorrow. At least in the first couple hours of the day. So with that being said, let's go to ES. ES is looking very similar. However, this isn't really a barrier triangle. This is more of like a just a symmetrical triangle where it should just stay within the confines here. And I'm still looking here at this 4,800 number. I think that this is a pretty key level, and I still have the same targets because we haven't made a new high. So if we do have a pullback, these are the targets here. If we draw a fib. Um, and we see a pullback here. This is a 0.236. So this would always be like our target one, which we did see. We did see a bounce here after the first test of this low, um, and shouldn't really get too excited about it because we should see higher highs yet before we have any sort of pullback. We'll have to redraw this, of course, if we do get a higher high. I don't expect there to be a failed five though, just because there's been crazy bullish sentiment behind driving this massive rally, and anything that gets sold down just gets bought up right away. But I do think there's a little bit of buyer fatigue going on. We're starting to see some more selling, some more red volume. You can also see on the left-hand side here, this volume profile. We're starting to see some high sell delta, and that's typically what you'll see here with these consolidation patterns at the top. But ultimately, I still think that we'll have a slightly higher high. And when we take a step back here, that's probably, I mean, it's definitely, a five, like a wave five of five if we back up here. But on the higher degree, I mapped this out here where we have an extended, uh, where it looks like it's an extended wave one and a very small, short wave two pullback. And this also looks like wave four here, but wave three can never be the shortest. So what I was thinking here is that this is actually going to be the top of wave three, and we might see only a brief pullback for then another attempt at the high here. And why I think that we might see that is because when we're taking a look here at the much larger structure, um, in ES here, we'll see that with these, in theory, this is like an ABC up, um, but we definitely made a new high. So, or sorry, like a new local high here. What that means is that instead of this being like a wave two top for some sort of reversal here, I do think that we'll probably see some higher highs. We'll probably struggle to get up past like 4860. But looking at the Dow, that's going to be uh, with the Dow. Just pulling this up quick. With the Dow just making a outrageous, new high here. This is futures. It didn't actually make a new high with futures, but with the actual industrial index, it did. And what I think here is that we're going to see some sort of continuation here. And typically these patterns, if you measure them out, I think this is probably a reasonable level where this A equals C, uh, some sort of like irregular corrective structure, which these guys, these can get a lot of traders, these irregular structures. I mean, it's quite the distance from the top, but realistically speaking, you have these, this 3,900 number is a pretty nice round number, and that's my opinion here is that usually these things get really close to these fib drawings. So just keep an eye on that if you're trading the Dow. And for ERDI, just looking at this triangle here, I do think that this is like an overthrow that we might see here. So if we're looking at this from a perspective of, we did see some sort of back testing, but this is still on a massive scale. This is at the daily level, so we don't want to make any assumptions here without, because this is a very, very long-term sort of view. But realistically, we did have some sort of, I'm sorry, this trend line needs to be adjusted, but um, we did have a breakout below this pattern, and it does look like a very large wave 4 into a wave 5, but we also see that there's a lot of, like this is the POC, the point of control for the entire area, and typically if we're going to have sell-offs, ERDI definitely leads. Sorry about that. Still not feeling the best. All right, so where I think ERDI might go here, this does look like, once we zoom in, sorry for jumping around. Once we zoom in, this also does look like a 5-wave setup, and definitely looks way too extended to be some sort of sea leg. So I would expect there to be some sort of equal sort of overthrow on the upside. So how we can look at this here is just to draw a fib level. So wave 1, wave 2, and we see here that I'd say probably this 2076 level is probably what we want to look for with any sort of continuation here. I think that'd be reasonable. And then I'd say probably at the top of that, this would be our wave 1 or 2, and then typically you'll see an extension of wave 3 up here to this 261 level. Sorry, the 2.618 level. Then ultimately we might see a pullback. I'd have to measure it here, but we might see something like this. And if you zoom out, that's probably where you might get our Santa rally sort of thing. I actually think typically when we see these, we only get shallow pullbacks as we see these sort of trend line tests, like these upper trend line tests, especially if we just had a breakout. So I wouldn't rely on normal measurements of like a wave 4 pullback, especially if we have a massive trend line that we just broke through that they have to retest. Okay, so with that being said, let's take a look here at the 10-year. 10-year, I'm starting to think that we might have a bit more of a, let me pull up the hour here. It looks like it's bottoming. However, I don't think it has any staying power, I guess you could say. Like this drawing is really just to illustrate here that there should be some sort of ABC up to correct the move down. And again, this does look like a wave, like a pretty clear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we still haven't seen a lower low yet. But I think maybe when you see, for example, here, let me pull up Nasdaq, and then let me layer the 10-year on top of this. And it actually might be better to show ES, because ES, there we go. So ES here with the 10-year mapped on top. Oh man, for all you chart nerds out there, doesn't that just look pretty? But how we can see this mapped out is if this, this is inversely related here to indexes typically. So if we do see a lower low in the 10-year, so that would be higher on this chart, then likely we see that last little thrust here for the equities, and that's again what I'm looking for here, which we might see like say maybe Monday might be too early, but Tuesday. We just got through the Fed speak and everything, but we still have to. We've gone pretty far, pretty fast without a pullback, and just because we have though doesn't necessarily mean it's coming soon. So I would say overall, the eye here is really on the 10-year, and we want to make sure that we that the 10-year itself is in lockstep here with the dollar. So if the dollar starts heading lower in a big way, likely the 10-year follows, or vice versa. And all we really want to do here is we just want to make sure that we protect ourselves, especially if we're in like a TMV trade. Um, the TMV trade, you can see here we've got some entries here, but if you should have hedged by now, and if we did take a like a TMF hedge, then I still probably wouldn't take profits on that yet. And that's what I'll be looking for in the next couple days, just because we might see that last little thrust down here where you might be able to, like you don't want to panic sell or panic buy a hedge. So what you typically want to do is, like, especially if we're looking at these levels, we would see here that this TMF hedge or TMV stop, whatever, however you want to play the trade, we would want to target right around here, maybe this like 3.8, and then we might get a more measurable retrace here. But this should be consistent with like a final uptick in equities, and then probably some more consolidation, but on a larger scale. So that would probably give you a good opportunity to close those hedges right down here, right? Like maybe the 3.8, like 3.88, 3.87. It just depends on how the markets are moving. Yeah, so that would be at least the biggest thing to watch out here for is if we have just another quick stab below, and that would be a good time to release some of those hedges. And don't forget to reapply them if you do have them. All right, for the dollar's in the same situation. So the dollar, we did have a slight retrace here. We did break below. Sorry, we did break back above this level of support here, and then we made ourselves a slightly new higher, but it looks like it's getting sold down. So I would still say look out for another push below here, which should give another tailwind for equities here. But I do think that this is kind of coming to an end, at least the rally overall. So let's take a look here at gold. So gold actually broke down below this flag here, which was a surprise, but not too much of a surprise, considering how we didn't really see like a B wave. So kind of what I'm thinking here is instead of this structure here, we probably see like a sub like a sub ABC up here, and this would make probably have to see a little bit deeper of a cut, but probably still see something like this, and then again aligned with the 10-year, the dollar and equities, we should see some sort of retest here of this 50% level. But what I'm targeting is I think a pretty nice trade here if we do get like a run up in the 10-year again, is if we see this level, this 1905. This should be, well, providing it bounces at this bounces down at this 0.5 level, we should see that. And if we're looking at the larger structure, that's actually it would be like a head and shoulders, but I'm not too quick to say that just yet, just because if you look at the overall structure, this one is a much longer term sort of cup and handle, and I do think that this gold trade is going to be awesome as soon as we can get better levels. Again, like a 1905 would be an awesome level to get for like maybe some leaps calls, something like that, for like a much longer term gold trade. But as you guys typically know, gold is good for inflation plays. So if we get upticks in inflation or something crazy happens with the bond market, this is something to just be aware of. Okay, so then last one here is oil. So let's take a look at the structure here. It still looks like we're in this five-way structure, and we did hit a nice bottom here, or a nice, just temporary bottom. And with that being said, I do think that we see a little bit higher highs. So we might see something like this, some sort of ABC up here. And I'm still not quite sure we have the low end, but it's not as sensitive as something like the dollar is, or like gold, for example. I do feel like oil is slightly more independent of a trading index as opposed to like the normal relationships between, um, like ES, NQ, and like the 10-year. All right, so that's it for now. But I guess long story short here is we just want to make sure that we're preparing to at least close some long trades, or maybe take a second look at what's going on here, because right around here we're going to start to hit some big numbers, and that's where I'm going to suggest that you might want to take a look at maybe lightening up some longs, or potentially taking up some shorts. I know it probably sounds like trading suicide to pick up some shorts, but the market will go down eventually. And especially if you're in ETFs where you don't really have any time as a consideration versus like options. Options are probably not the right play at this point, but for for some like maybe like 3x leverage funds, it's probably still a good play to try to load up down here a little bit for maybe a couple, maybe like a 100 or 200 point move, and that could be some nice quick profits. So for this upcoming week, let's just keep an eye on it and make sure that we're not being too hasty here. Let's have some patience and see what happens with this pattern. But overall, I still think that we'll have some sort of breakout to the upside for equities. All right, that's it, everybody. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.